Bienvenue mes amis, and welcome to another episode of Bonjour and all that. Remember, this is the video series that the Spanish Club of Ukulele High School in Birds Knot, Kentucky does not want you to see. Today's lesson, well, it's a good one, as they all are. It's about reflexive verbs. Yeah, you heard me right, reflexive verbs. Let's see what that's all about. Okay, let me give you a definition of a reflexive verb. A reflexive verb is one in which the subject both performs and receives the action of the verb. So in a reflexive verb sentence, the subject of the verb is also the object of the verb. All right, let me give you some examples of reflexive verbs in English. I could kick myself. In this case, I am doing the kicking, but I am also receiving the kicking. You see, the action is being reflected back onto me. All right? You have to tell yourself to calm down. Again, in this case, it's you. You are doing the telling, and you are receiving the telling. Reflexive. He needs to pull himself together. She has to prepare herself for the truth. We are working ourselves into a frenzy. You're only hurting yourselves. They must convince themselves it's possible. In each of these cases, the subject is also the object of the verb. Notice that in English, more often than not, we will express reflexive verbs by using the pronouns myself, yourself, himself, herself, ourselves, yourselves, and themselves. So when you see these kinds of pronouns in a sentence, it's an indicator that you may be dealing with a reflexive verb. Now, French does the same thing. They will use a certain set of pronouns when using reflexive verbs. So let's take a look at those. Okay, in French, here are the reflexive pronouns. Now, I just want to make you aware, remember, singular and plural is what we call number, and that just means, are we talking about a singular subject or are we talking about a plural subject? And the 1, 2, 3 here means first person, second person, or third person. First person is the person that is you. It's when you talk about yourself. Second person is the person you are talking to. And third person is the person you are talking about. So in this case, first person singular would be I. First person plural would be we. Second person singular would be you, talking to one person. Second person plural would be you, or you could say you all, you guys, when talking to a group of people. Third person singular is when you are talking about he or she or it. You're talking about someone. We use those pronouns, he, she, it. Or if you're talking about a group of people, we would say they. Okay, so for French, here are the reflexive pronouns. Me, te, ce, nous, vous, ce. So the third person, singular or plural, it's going to be the same reflexive pronoun. All right? See what I'm talking about there? Good. They're not very hard to learn. All right? Very easy, very nice, very simple. Okay, now let's see how the French use these when they talk about a reflexive pronoun or when they use reflexive pronouns. It's at this point, though, that I have to make you aware of something. Reflexive verbs can get kind of funny in that just because a verb is reflexive in English doesn't mean it's going to be reflexive in French. And the opposite is also true. Just because a verb is reflexive in French doesn't mean it's going to be reflexive in English. A lot of it has to do with the mindset or the culture of the language. So just keep that in mind. All right. Here is a French reflexive verb. And it is se préparer which means to get ready. Now, you'll notice something different right away. Normally in French, our infinitives are one word, such as préparer. But when you're dealing with a reflexive verb, the French use a two-word infinitive. They will put the reflexive pronoun se in front of the infinitive to let you know that you are dealing with a reflexive verb. So this is se préparer. In English, we translate it as to get ready. You could also say to prepare oneself. Okay, so you see there a reflexive kind of translation. And a lot of times in English, when you see the word get in an infinitive, such as to get ready, that's another way in English that we indicate that the verb is reflexive. Okay, so here we have se préparer, to prepare oneself or to get ready. All right, I've got my singular and plural for my number. I've got my persons, first, second, third, first, second, third. Okay, notice how the reflexive verbs are constructed in French. Okay, I have my subject pronoun. We're very familiar with those. Je, tu, il. This could also be elle. Nous, vous, il, or also elle plural. Okay, then after the pronoun, we put our reflexive verb. After the subject pronoun, we place the reflexive pronoun, which is me, te, ce, nous, vous, ce. So the reflexive pronoun goes in front of the verb form, which is where we normally see pronouns go in French, right? All right. So then with the verb form, we just conjugate it like we normally would according to its verb family. Préparer, a regular ER verb, so we're going to use our regular ER endings. E, ESE, ONS, EZ, ENT. We prepare our stem the same way, that is by dropping the ER, okay, and then our regular endings. So conjugating the verb is no different than conjugating a regular verb. The only difference is we are going to have these reflexive pronouns in front of the verb. So je me prépare means I am getting ready, or you could say I am preparing myself. Tu te prépares, you are getting ready. Il se prépare, he is getting ready. Nous nous préparons, we are getting ready. Vous vous préparez, you are getting ready. And then ils se préparent, they are getting ready. It's kind of fun to do this nous and vous. It sounds kind of funny, but that's what it is. Okay, so you can see how the reflexive verb is constructed in French. All right, nothing really out of the ordinary, nothing bizarre. Okay, so let's go on. Now, here I've got a new verb for you. It's also reflexive in French. Se reposer. Now notice, this is one of those verbs that's reflexive in French, but not reflexive in English. Okay? So, in the French mindset, this is something you do to yourself. You are doing the resting and you are receiving the resting. So in the French mindset, this is a reflexive verb. In English, to rest. We don't say I rest myself or you rest yourself. We just say to rest. Okay? So, now I want you to think about how would you construct these in French, knowing that it's reflexive, knowing that you're going to use your reflexive pronouns. How would you do that? Remember, your reflexive pronoun is going to go in front of the verb form, and the verb is going to be conjugated like it regularly would according to its verb family. So this is an ER verb, reposer. It's a regular ER verb, so we're going to use our regular endings, E, ESE, ONS, EZ, ENT. All right? So think about that for a second. How would you conjugate this? Okay. You just about through? All right, let's take a look. Here we go. Je me repose, I am resting. Tu te reposes, you are resting. Il se repose, he is resting. Or you could also say elle se repose, she is resting. Nous nous reposons, we are resting. Vous vous reposez, you all or you are resting. And ils se reposent, they are resting. Okay. Again, regularly conjugated verb with the reflexive pronoun in front. All right. Well, let's go on then. I think you've probably got this down. Let's go on and take a look at how you would do this in the passé composé. Now remember, the passé composé is constructed with a helping verb, either avoir or être, and it's going to have a past participle. All right, here's how you conjugate that same verb in the passé composé in French. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me set it up for you. And this is important to know. All reflexive verbs use être for a helping verb in the passé composé. All right, so if it's reflexive, it's going to use être. Now, when it's not reflexive, it may use avoir, but if it becomes reflexive, yes, it's going to use être. The reflexive pronoun is placed directly in front of the helping verb or the form of être. And the past participle, because it's conjugated with être, the past participle must agree in gender and number with the subject of the sentence. That's normal for verbs that are conjugated with être in the passé composé, and here we go. All right. Notice I've given you two forms for each one if the subject is masculine, one if the subject is feminine. We have our singular and plural, our first, second, and third persons in each one of those. Okay. Je me suis reposé. I rested. Okay. Here I've got my je, my subject. I follow that by my reflexive pronoun. I have my form of être. I have my past participle. And my past participle may need an ending depending upon whether it's masculine or feminine, singular or plural. All right, so it's je me suis reposé. See, all I do is conjugate the verb like I regularly would in the passé composé, except I put the reflexive pronoun in front of the helping verb. And if it's feminine, je me suis reposé with another e on the past participle. Same for tu, tu t'es reposé, tu t'es reposé. Il s'est reposé, elle s'est reposée. And I do the S apostrophe EST because the French don't like it when you put those two vowel sounds together. So I'm not going to say il se est, I'm just going to say il s'est. All right? Now, we come into the plural, and remember, because it's plural, all of the past participles are going to have an S to reflect that it's plural, and the feminine forms of those will also have to have an E. So you have a lot of endings here. All right? Nous nous sommes reposés, we rested. Nous nous sommes reposés with an ES ending on the past participle. Vous vous êtes reposés, and again, vous vous êtes reposés with the added endings. Ils se sont reposés, and elles se sont reposées, with, of course, the appropriate endings on the past participle. Okay? It's something that kind of looks like it's involved, but it really is the simple process. Just do it regular, but put that reflexive pronoun in there, and you're fine. All right? And I've got a little note down there, subject plus reflexive pronoun plus form of être plus the past participle plus its ending. Okay, well, my time is growing short, so I'm going to leave you now with this explanation of reflexive verbs in both the present and the passé composé in French. I do want to thank you for joining me today, and you know I'll be back with another lesson soon. À bientôt, mes amis.